I'm enjoying today. Today is it's actually Thursday, June 26, 2025. It's 7:20 and it's about 70 degrees. We went from almost 100 and now we're back in 70 degrees. This summer has definitely been a little different. We're usually in the pool a dozen times already by now, maybe more. And we literally went in it, I think, twice. But anyway, I'm making it short because then I'm going to go to my dad's house and maybe I'll do a video from his balcony because I like it over there. And my dad being 85, who knows how much longer I'm going to have over there. And it's like my last connection to Yonkers. As a lot of you know, that's the second place I lived. I lived in the Bronx from 73 to 94. Then I lived in Yonkers to about 2004. Maybe 2003. Then I moved to Eastchester, Tuckahoe, and Eastchester and Scarsdale again. You know, it's crazy because I'm probably by car ride, a 20-minute ride, especially with no traffic, to my old house. And it's just crazy that 20 minutes, you know, completely night and day. Action 24 hours a day, stores open all the time. Even days like this, probably the streets are busy. I don't even understand where the people go in these neighborhoods. And I've been here now 13 years, but in these neighborhoods almost 20 now. I just don't know. Actually, it's going to be 20, I think, coming up. I don't get it. Where, even for like the holidays, where is everyone? Like, I can't, man, it's almost no one's ever around. And it just gets, man, like if I grew up if I grew up here, I would have like used every square inch of my property. Meanwhile, people over here never out. I don't know if they just, I don't know, to be honest. I can't tell you. When COVID was around, we got a few more families in the neighborhood roam, you know, out. But then once that went away, people, you know, bounced again. No one hangs out. I just don't get it. For the 4th of July, I'm the only one who does a crazy barbecue with fireworks over here. Matter of fact, it's illegal over here, but they don't really bust chops. I do it on my property. Plus, I only get the ones that shoot up 10, 15 feet in the air. They could make as much noise as, you know, possible. They just don't go up in the sky. Those were the ones that they actually made legal here for a year or two. And then some, you know, dum-dum changed it again and voted against it. So now you can pick them up in other parts of New York, like Newark, which is, you know, 25 minutes from here, and that's where I go. I've been dealing with the same Indian lady for the last 3 years, and I already spoke to her. She's open. That, and you could go to Connecticut, but I find, and they're both the same legalities. Like, they could be as loud, they just can't go above like 10 feet. So no bottle rockets, no Roman candles. But to me, I don't care. I like noise. So as long as they could be as noisy as possible, that's fine for me. And they're colorful too. Picture anything that could go in the sky, except now they had to make it so that it only goes like 10 feet or under. So I still have a good time with it. Man, I found some of my receipts when I was working in the deli in the number spot. And I would buy fireworks from the guy who ran the Bronx with fireworks. And I'm, you know, 94, I was only 21 years old and I was out of control. I would take consignment of a few $100,000 and I would end up paying them, you know, July 5th, 6th. But one time they almost broke into my garage. Luckily, I just put an alarm in, because if they would have you know, robbed my garage with all my stuff, man, it would have been a big, whew. Granted, I used to keep things in 3 different locations. I used to have a showroom behind the video store so people could come pick what they want. And I would keep, a few of each there. Then I had a basement in a building a block away. And then I had another garage, my house, that I kept things in. But, my dad should have smacked me in the head and said, what happens if you lose all their money? How do you come up with 100 and something, 200 grand? But at that age, I didn't care. That's what I would tell my son. I'd be like, man, if you take all this consignment and something happens, what are you going to do? Certain people you can't play with, but like I said, my parents, my dad, he wasn't like me. I was kind of always the one that went out and didn't, like the worst my dad ever did was steal cables. When back in the days, everyone in the Bronx had a bootleg box. That's as far as he went. But yeah, I miss those days of fireworks. We would start helping the main guy. I won't say their last name, but his first name was Richie. And his last name started with a B, which is funny because there's 2 Richie B's. One owned the deli and one worked at the deli, but he was the one who provided the fireworks. And man, those were the days. He used to put on shows in the Bronx on Hardin Avenue. And that's a busy street. That's like the busiest street you could think of. And they would literally close it down, probably for at least a half hour. Buses, everything had to stop. Police would stop. And they would put on a show, probably shoot off 50 grand worth of mortars and mats. And then when they were done, everyone would help clean up. Thousands of people would be around, so cleanup was quick. No one said anything, and everyone kept moving as soon as it was done. Once Giuliani came in office, that stopped. M80s and blockbusters, they started, ooh, it's chilly out here. What the freak? I can't believe it. Man, I'm telling you, this world is something coming. I'm chilly, and that's why this year is going to be a crappy pool year again. Man, I can't believe it. We had a few days, and that's why I don't complain, not anymore, with this heat wave crap, because I'll take it over losing the summer. New York is losing more and more summer. But anyway, once Giuliani started with the new laws, he made it where, because blockbusters and M80s and those were never bought from the factories. There was always somebody who used to make them in-house in the Bronx. And once he considered that to be like dynamite, especially after, 9/11 and that crap. Actually, this was before 9/11. You just couldn't get it anymore. They killed the tradition that was fine for so long. It's funny how somebody new always comes in and scoops things up. When my mom worked at a place, 20 years, things ran smooth. They hire a new manager. He comes in, tries to make a name for himself and freaks everything up. Same thing with my uncle. He worked for sanitation in Tuckahoe for 20-something years. Their gig was they would start super early because then they would all get done like 11:30, and then they could go home, and most of them had a second job. The new manager came in right at the last year when my uncle was working there, and he said, I don't care if you're done at 10, you still got to stay here at 3. Now, you see what kind of bullcrap that is? They rushed through the job, get things done quicker so that they could actually go home and get a second job done, and you're going to step in and ruin it. And that's when my uncle knew it was time to retire. He was that age anyway. But you see what I mean with these assholes? Some of these people, these business, their heads are bigger than anything. And somebody would say, well, that's his job. But the point is, they would get to work earlier than they were supposed to. They would run through the job faster than they were supposed to just because they all wanted to go home and have a second job. And after so many, after 20-something years, somebody comes by and they screw it up. That's why I always say I'd rather work for myself. I'd rather make 200,000 and work for myself than work for somebody else and make $500,000. My opinion, number one, usually the more hustle you put into it, it directly benefits you. Working for somebody else, you directly benefit them. I used to work at the Java Center. So did my dad. He did good there because he was on the list. That meant every time, I think he was like 20 something. Every time there was over 20 something workers, he had to work. And there was always 20 something workers. Very rarely were there less. So he worked every day. Me not being on the list, because the list was 60, I could go in there and kill myself. I'm talking about like pride myself being the best worker in the place. Meanwhile, other guys are just sitting around lounging. But because I wasn't on the list and the place was ran by people who just used connections, the guy who was just sitting around sleeping all day literally would get the call back and I wouldn't. So after that happening for like 6 months, I told them to go F themselves. There's only so much you could go to work, be proud of your job, bust your butt, and then you would see at the end of the day you didn't get a call back, and then there would be a handful of people who literally did nothing all day and they got a call back. So that's what made me start. I'm 51 and I basically worked for myself my whole entire life. I started work early, 14, 15 years old, delivering papers, even earlier than that, having jobs off the books. I wasn't meant for school, so I dropped out. I did get my GED, but back then they had no idea what ADHD was. So I went to Catholic school for the first few years and I suffered. And Catholic school, whether people like it or not, is probably one of the worst schools you can go to because they could care less. If you don't fit their mold, like they don't have anything. If you need any kind of extra help, they don't have it. At least now you move to a really nice neighborhood. The public schools have, especially where I am now, have a lot of services for ADHD and people on the spectrum. But Catholic schools still in 2025, they still don't have anything to help. So if you're on the spectrum or you have ADHD, it don't matter how religious you are because they're not going to accept you. And that's why I don't accept it. I didn't like church growing up. My son has no interest in it now. And I tell him the same thing I tell everyone else. As long as you're good to people, that's your church. Because if there really is a God, he's going to go by who's kind to people and who helps people. Not who's mean all week, but then they go to church and they get a pass. It's not like church is a mafia. And if it is, it shouldn't work that way. So no, I don't go to church. I don't make my son do any of that. He was baptized, but that was it. And I have ADHD and he's on the spectrum. Good thing we didn't want to go to Catholic school, because if we did, we wouldn't have been able to anyway. But man, the good old days. I'm going to do a program so everybody knows what I'm doing. What days I'm doing what. Videos about RC cars, videos about maybe ADHD and on the spectrum, videos about, DJ type stuff, music, mixes, but different programs, different shows so people know. Again, not everybody may be interested in everything. So you guys can pick one, maybe my eBay show. I definitely want to put a little, what do you call it? A little crew together of, like-minded people for the ADHD community, for the spectrum community. Yesterday I vented on here about a few things. It really takes you for a loop some days. And parents who are not in the loop have no idea how hard even someone like I have it, because, my son, he's highly functional. I think they would consider it Asperger's, somebody told me back in the day. But it still presents a lot of challenges. Me having ADHD presents a lot of challenges. They just do. The way that, like the way that you would think life would have looked before everything, then you realize it's never going to look that way, for better or worse. I just hope, my son has a really good life. Right now, he doesn't have a lot of friends. He don't play sports. Um, yeah, it's tough. It is tough, you know, to think. I'm a big. I don't want to say I'm a big biker, but I like BMX freestyle and racing. I was born in '73, so the big years of freestyle and racing were like between '85 and like '88. Those were like the busiest ever for BMX freestyle and racing. I still have some bikes. Matter of fact, I don't know if you can see it, but I have my '87. That's a 2017 Harrow Master that looks just like a 1987. So, yeah, I couldn't see the comments before because it was just all messed up, but I see them now. I don't know. I see somebody say WSP. Oh, bro, that stupid just said hi. I have no idea. I don't even know how to. How do you even? Uh, how do you even? Let me see something. No, how do I leave a message back? I don't want to touch the wrong thing and mess it up. I got to find out how to do the messages because it's hard for me to see them and I don't know how to respond to them. Um, but yeah, life is short. I'm also going to make some video documentation on why I got into the whole social media thing. I'm not doing social media to be the next Mr. Beast. I'm trying to build communities up. I'm 51 years old, like-minded communities who like RC cars, who like, you know, the DJ culture, video games. I got into video games late. Growing up, we didn't have the money. I think we had like a ColecoVision and an Atari that we got from my uncle, but that was it. We didn't really have much. I never had Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, none of them. GameCube, never had any of them. And then once I got older, I had that frame of mind like video games are stupid. They're like people who instead of hustling, making money, you're playing games, which was dumb. That was my frame of mind. But now I realized, it's not dumb. It's a good way to relax. It's a good way to let go of stress. I just realized that, not all games are for me. As a matter of fact, I ordered a game from GameStop today that supposed to be same day delivery, but for some reason, when GameStop's supposed to do same day delivery, it never shows up. Then I have to call them up and fight for my $10 back. I don't understand why it's so complicated. You know, deliver those kind of drivers. I'm not like upstate New York. They're usually a dime a dozen all over the place. You can't get somebody to deliver my package. That's one thing. If I owned a store, I would have same day delivery. I'd have my own drivers. My own drivers go within like a 20-25 mile radius all day. Bypass UPS, bypass FedEx. And the busier you get, the wider you make your your circle. And then if you get real busy, you just open up another store so that you could keep branching out. So now you're servicing 50 miles. You get a little busier, you get another store, so now you service 100 miles. But yeah, I got into video games late. And just like RC cars, I had to jump in and buy all kinds of games. I realized first-person shooters get me dizzy and pretty nauseous, especially the old ones. Like there's a few Nintendo 64 games on the Switch that I tried, and man, I could get nauseous in like minutes. I like playing the game, but it literally knocks me out. I try to take those pills to not get dizzy, and it still doesn't work most of the time. Man, it's freaking cold out here. I'm telling you, something's going on in New York, boy. It's June 26th and I'm cold in shorts and this t-shirt. Like, what is going on? All right, I'm gonna go inside, finish up what I have to do. Then I'm gonna go to Yonkers and maybe I'll take you guys with me. I have a good shot of Central Avenue and Tuckahoe Road from my father's apartment. It's up high, it's beautiful. So maybe if, you know, you guys are around, I'll take you for that ride in a little bit. Ciao, everyone.